Really looking forward to podcast episode number 16 coming at you. I am talking with Dakota Ebear, and Dakota is a major league fishing angler. Hey, Dakota, this is Dakota right there. And he's a major league fishing angler fishing on the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit. Got a chance to meet up with Dakota recently in La Crosse, and we're going to be talking about that La Crosse event, the title event, and a lot more. So let's get going.
This isn't another fishing podcast. This is another fishing podcast.
All right, Dakota. Yeah, so interesting event in La Crosse. First, I just kind of I want to kind of get into how we met, like the first time we've ever actually worked together. I don't even know what day that was. These days, like when I'm filming these Major League Fishing events, they all kind of just run in to one another. So
it's a marathon.
It really is a marathon. That's exactly what it's like. So I can't remember what day that was, but we had a chance. I jumped in the boat with you, and we talked a little bit about just kind of promoting oneself in the fishing industry, and kind of got to know you, and it was pretty cool. Then I talked to you yesterday at the it was the end of the event, and you came up and wanted to pick my brain a little bit about kind of some of the stuff, maybe some of the advice I was giving you, which I don't know if you should listen to any advice that I have.
Well, I mean, it was kind of interesting just to get a little bit insight on your take on the whole social media thing, the whole YouTube thing, and obviously it's something that I probably need to work on. I definitely need to work on. So it was interesting just to get your take on all that stuff. I mean, you're tied in with that a lot more than what I am, honestly. I mean, truth be known.
Yeah. So I thought we could have a real interesting conversation here, just as far as, especially nowadays, how important it is for up and coming anglers to kind of be able to, promote themselves through social media, and particularly like the video platforms where they're heavily video, like YouTube and whatnot. Right. I mean, you see everybody doing it. Everybody's got a GoPro. But I can kind of give you sort of my insights into it as far as like everything kind of what to avoid, like all the pitfalls you should like try to avoid, in that, like, I've overthought things way too much. It's like, I come from a television background where everything's got to be perfect. The color, everything's got to be legal is the term. The sound's got to be perfect. And what I've found in social media and like fishing is that none of that is as important as just telling your story and getting people to connect with you. And so with you as a young pro, and we need to get into how you started in your story. But for what I was telling you on the boat before we got started with your day is just, what I'm seeing more and more, what's so important more than anything is just telling your story and having people kind of getting to know you and that doesn't have to. It could be done with a cell phone. I'm seeing YouTube channels that are just blowing past us, that we've been doing this for way too long, and they're doing very simple content, but they're doing it consistently, and people get to really get to know them because they're posting so frequently, and they're telling their kind of story. So you could do that, with. Just I know all the trials and tribulations, that happen on the road as a fisherman.
Yeah, it is, man. I mean, it's kind of an interesting deal, like a lot of people just like, they don't get to see like the behind the scenes stuff, so I do think there's definitely like a niche for that, that people are interested in, and what all goes on in the day-to-day life of a guy that's living on the road out of a camper, and fishing every day, it's it is, it's a cool thing that I would like to share, previously, I've been so focused on making it, I've been so focused on catching them, it's like, I've just been so wrapped up in that for the last few years, and I still am, and I'm still gonna be, but I do realize that as I get better and as I grow in the sport, I need to share that with other people, right? I need to do that to promote myself and my sponsors and what we're doing here. So, I know that, like I said, it's something I want to work on and get better at, and it's gonna come. I just like I said, man, I've just been so like wrapped up in just trying to be successful, like on the water, and be the best angler that I can be, and I mean. But like you said, it doesn't take a whole lot of time. And I think that might have been a misconception that I had, with like having to have like a professional grade video for it to really be like, attractive to people to watch. And that's really not that true. I mean, you look at, like Brian Latimer's a good example. We talked about that, like Brian is very raw, like, footage. But people like that, because I mean, they know like this is Brian, this is who he is. He don't have like, this big special deal. Like he's just showing you his day-to-day life and putting, helpful videos out there that people can watch and enjoy. So, I think that that's a pretty cool deal, and it's something, like I said, that I need to get a little better at.
So let's go into just who you are, like how, so you're from Texas, right?
I grew up in Louisiana. I grew up around Baton Rouge, in a small town called Watson, just northeast of Baton Rouge, about 20 miles. And I lived there until I moved off to college, and I moved to Stephenville, Texas, which is kind of the central part of the state, and finished up my college years there. And that's when I got involved in the college fishing program when I was at Tarleton State University. And, that's what really propelled me in my career fishing. But growing up in South Louisiana, man, we hunted and fished and played football and baseball and rodeoed, and that was what we did. My mom, she's the one that got me into the sport, really. She raised me hunting and fishing, and we were either going to the deer camp or we were going fishing somewhere every weekend, just about, if I didn't have baseball or something. So as a little kid, she's got videos of me like she had me in a bass boat, like before I could walk, man, like on one of the little bouncy things, and so, I mean, I was literally in a boat before I could walk, and I mean, I had a rod and reel in my hand, I think, before I could walk, a little Snoopy pole or something. She's got a story about one day that we were like in the Atchafalaya Basin, and they were like catching the heck out of them, like every cast on some runouts and stuff, and I'm in the bottom of the boat bouncing around my little deal with a little Snoopy pole, and I threw it out of the boat. And when I did that, I threw the biggest fit and wouldn't quit throwing a fit, and I ruined the whole day, and they had to go home. And so she tells that story sometimes. But, like I said, just basically, man, just grew up hunting and fishing, and it's all I ever really want to do. I mean, it got in the way of school. It got in the way of me working. I was always wanting to take off and go hunting or skip class and go hunting or whatever, and I mean, it just got to the point where I was like, man, I realized that I was a little bit different. Like, right? Okay. Like whenever I was asking my buddies, like, hey man, let's go fishing. And like, dude, we went fishing the last 5 days. I don't want to go anymore. And like, I ended up having to I started like, and same thing with hunting. Like I would go for like 2 or 3 weeks at a time and go sleep in a tent, on wildlife management area or something, and my buddy's like, you're an idiot. I'm not going to do that with you. So I ended up just doing it on my own, like, so I was always going hunting and fishing on my own and doing that because I realized that I was kind of obsessed with it, right? And the average person's not like that crazy about it. Like we want to go fishing, everybody does, but like after about 5 or 6 days, and especially when you're not catching anything, they're like, all right, I'm out, dude. Let's go do something else.
Do you have that mentality when you're having a tough day, that, it doesn't discourage you? If anything, it kind of, it gives you more fuel, that you want to figure out, well, what the heck was I not doing that I should have been doing,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's a whole nother side of the thing, right? So before tournament fishing, I still had, I developed this at a young age, like I said, the passion for the sport and just being outdoors. I just love it. I mean, that's just all I really want to do, right? Well, then whenever I'm also like really competitive by nature. It's just who I am. And, so whenever I got into the tournament scene and then competitive bass fishing and all that, like that's a whole other side of the thing that really, really drives me, right? Not only do I, just like being outdoors and fishing and hunting and stuff, but like the challenge of it, right? And putting the pieces to the puzzle like together, that's what, man, like really drives me to another level to like work so hard at it, right? Because yeah, like you said, whenever the day's not going good, you're not catching them, you're like, man, why? You know, like what's going on and what can I do different? And some days you don't figure it out, but you look back, you know, after, you know, and you like reflect on it. Hindsight's always 20/20. You're like, man, I should have done that, you know, or I should have done this. And so yeah, the challenge of it's really, you know, something that drives me heavily. Because it's different every day on the water. You know, it's never the same thing over and over again. I mean, this is a job, right? At this point, you know, full-time job that. So, but it's never the same thing. Like I couldn't go sit in an office every day at a desk and do the same thing every day.
Dude,
there's no way I can do that. I'm too ADHD for that.
Yeah, I'm the same way. That's why I do what I do. That's why I get on the boat, you know, get on boats and film people fishing. I'm a fisherman first and foremost. I've talked about this a ton. But yeah, I don't have that personality. I mean, I would feel like a slave to the grind, dude. Like right. I remember very early on. So right out of college, I worked for Bass Pro Shops in Springfield, Missouri. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I'd be in the cubicle and going like, this is not what I signed up for. You know, this is not why I went to college. This is not why I got a degree. This is not why I worked so hard. It's like, if this is the 9 to 5 grind, that this is what I was, you know, was sold on, like this is what I was going to be doing the rest of my life, then I'm jumping the damn ship, dude. Right. And so that's why I'm basically do what I do right now. And I see the thing is, I wanted to be a professional fisherman first and foremost, you know? And so it's that same people that want to do that and who are also like freelancers have the same kind of like do everything possible to not be a cog in a wheel.
Right. No doubt, man. I mean, so I went to a community college for 2 years right outside of high school. I went to Baton Rouge Community College and I got an industrial technology degree from there. And I have some family and stuff that works in the refineries and stuff down there in Louisiana. That's like a really big thing, you know, that industrial stuff is pretty popular. Like that's what drives the economy down there, right? So there's a lot of really good jobs. People make really good livings. They, you know, make a lot of money. They provide for their families and stuff. But you know, it's a shift work type deal, you know, and all that. And I have family that you know that have made really good livings doing that, right? But they fuss every day whenever they had to go to work, you know, and I'm referring to like a couple of my uncles, you know, but like because they were like they raised me too, kind of in the woods and stuff, used to take me hunting and stuff all the time. But they would fuss because they had to go to work every day, you know, like, and I'm like, man, when I graduated from that, I had some job opportunities, you know, and I knew like if I went and did that, man, I could make a lot of money. You know, I could have me a nice big fancy house and I could, you know, have all these things, you know, whatever, and that I really don't have now. So, you know, kind of sacrifice that.
Hey, can I just interject here for a second? Because you're a young lad and I'm an older gentleman, so I can impart some wisdom. Don't believe it. Yeah. Don't believe it, dude. You got to live the life that's right for you. The whole house, that whole big house and stuff. Do you know how much of a pain in the ass it is to take care of a house? Like seriously, dude. And then all the stuff like the lawn care and everything, it's taken away from your fishing. Keep it simple, stupid, man. I'm telling you,
for sure. That's where I'm going with that. Like I seen that, like, right? You know, I was like, all right, I can go to work for the man. But I ain't ready for that. Like at 19 years old, like I made a decision right there. I said, you know what? I'm young. I have a fallback plan, right? I've got a degree that I can use, right? I'm not ready for that. I wasn't, and I realized that. I was like, I don't know that that's the life that I want to live, right? I don't think that I wasn't intrigued by the dollar signs. I wasn't. I would rather do other things, you know.
That's smart.
That I enjoy. And so I transferred to LSU the next year. After I graduated, I moved over to LSU and started studying animal science. And I was rodeoing a lot of the time. And so that was something I wanted to get more involved in, was animal science, beef cattle production, actually, and equine science. So I started studying that, and I did that for a year. And I had a connection with a guy that was a rodeo coach at a rodeo team in Texas, and he hooked me up with that guy. They waived my out-of-state penalties to come up there and rodeo for the school, and so that's how I ended up in Texas. They had a really good animal science program there, so I wanted to go take part in that and learn as much as I could about that field, like ranch management and stuff. And when I got out there, I met some guys on the fishing team. We got to be buddies, and I ended up starting to fish the college stuff. So I actually moved out there to rodeo, and then my fishing career took off.
Right on.
So it's crazy how all the things work out, but I made that decision when I was 19 that, like, if I had a family and I had people that depended on me, then, things would be different. But I said to myself, you know what? If I can bust my ass at what I truly love, become good enough at it, I can set myself up to where maybe I can support a family doing something that I love down the road. And so that's where we're at today. I mean, that's why I fished as many events as I have in the last couple of years. Like, people make a big deal about that, and I'm like, I don't see why it's a big. I don't know why every guy isn't doing that wants to fish professionally. Like, I do in a way, because it is. I mean, you got to win enough to keep going, and it's hard, and people have other obligations and stuff. But being a single guy, nobody dependent on me. I don't have any kids. I don't have a wife. I don't have a girlfriend. I don't have any of that. I've got a truck, a camper, and a boat, and I'm investing myself in this industry to be the best that I can be, so that later in life, whenever I do have obligations and responsibilities, I can still do what I love and hopefully support a family and stuff. So, that was just kind of my business plan, and that's where we're at.
I couldn't agree. What you're doing, I couldn't agree more with. If you want to do this for a living, and just so you know, I'm looking at, and the people that listen to this podcast are going to be like, here he goes again. He's describing his cameras that he's got on him. So when I'm looking up like that, I'm looking at the main camera here. When I look down, I'm looking at the webcam. So if you see me looking up and down, that's what I'm doing, Dakota. But anyway, yeah, you're doing it right. If you want to pursue a career like this and you're young, I think you're doing exactly what you should be doing. Do what's right for you. Don't let anybody tell you to live a certain way. Live the life that is right for you. Okay, as long as you're not hurting anybody.
Different, man.
Everybody is totally different. Everybody's totally different, dude. And if you've got that spirit, of just, of this free will spirit, dude, there's ways to make a living at it. Okay. And, and have that, not extinguish that. Right. And by saying, okay, I'm going to I'm going to pursue this. I'm going to work my tail off to do this. You're going to sacrifice, which has to happen no matter what you pursue in life. If you really want it, you want something, you have to sacrifice. And a person, listen, everybody wants to find that person, right? But you doing what you're doing, and being who you are, that person, you will find that person that accepts you and what you do. Okay, they won't try to change you.
Right.
All right. So you're putting, in my opinion, you're putting everything, in order correctly,
Trying to, man. I mean, you never know when life's going to throw a curveball at you or something like that, man. You can't, I mean, you got to live the day, but you got to have a plan, right? I mean, you can't I don't know how to say that, but man, just like you said, you just got to take it day by day, have goals, have aspirations, know where you want to be, right? And then just go with it, right? Just work your butt off and let the rest fall into place, I mean, and that's just all there is to it, So no, I'm perfectly content with where I'm at and all that. I say that as a person, I'm not content where I'm at in the industry. I want to be, heck, I mean, why not want to be the best? I mean, why not work to be the best? I mean, I'm watching Jacob just run the industry, and it's I want to be that. I want to be as good as Jacob Wheeler. And you would if you tell that to people, they're like, whoa, dude,
I don't, no. That's exactly the attitude you should have.
You don't because you get it. But most guys, some guys are like, dang, dude, that's kind of cocky. What?
If you don't have that attitude, why are you trying? Why are you out there trying to beat him?
Exactly. No, I'm as humble as they come, but I want to beat him.
Yeah.
Every time I want to fish against him, I'm so excited about potentially fishing the Bass Pro Tour next year. I can't sleep at night already. Like, because I want to compete against him every week. Like, I want to compete against him because he's going to make me better. Not just him, that whole field. Like, or, I don't care if it's, the Elite Series or the Bass Pro Tour or whatever. I want to fish against the best. And because they're going to make me better. I'm going to have to be better. They're going to kick my ass, right? And so I want to strive to be better than that one day, man. Like, it's all work, no stop. Like, we're fixing to head back to Texas. I'm going to load up this camper here in a little while. And I'm headed back to Texas and my trolling motor's coming in. My boat's sitting there getting ready. I need to get rigged up on it. I mean, it's a never-ending process. We're going to throw some hunting in the off season, but we're going to get ready for 2022 like tomorrow. You know what I'm saying?
Right on. Yeah.
So it's but it is, man, and that goes right back to like sharing that with people, like the day-to-day life of a guy that's trying to make a living fishing professionally. And that's something that I think is kind of cool, man. I mean, there's so many things that happen on the road, that I'm like, dang, I wish we'd have had that on film. Like I want to get better at that, right? Because I mean, it's cool. Some of it's funny, some of it's like, oh man, that was wild, like that was a close call or something. Just crazy stuff happening, like I want to be able to share that with people, But for me, it's been finding that balance, right? Of like, I just get so wrapped up in these tournaments, like I don't even want to look at my phone, much less like.
Well, I don't blame you, and you have to be. I mean, there's no doubt. You have to be focused. You have to be. You have to be giving those tournaments. Pre-fishing, all that. You have to give your utmost attention to that.
I don't know, like. I'll say this, like, I don't think when I look at myself as an angler, I don't look at myself as maybe the most talented guy out there, like naturally, like, or like, I look at a guy that, like, I look at myself as I'm not a John Cox, right? I'm not. Like, I mean, yeah, we both fish a ton of events and all that stuff. Yeah, we're similar in that way. But I'm not a guy that's just going to roll up and just just go catch them, right? I mean, I feel like John just is so good naturally, right? He has so much natural talent. I mean, he can catch them in a freaking anywhere. Like like he just showed up at Sturgeon Bay last year for the championship, went fishing the first day of the tournament, didn't even practice, and he wins the round, right? Or whatever, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean,
I look at myself as a guy that's got to bust my butt every day to do as good as I do, right? Like I look at I don't feel like I can work enough, right? I don't feel like I can work enough at it. And I say that with pride. Like I'm not saying that in a negative way at all, right? I look at myself as a guy that has to like really, really work at things to be as good as I am, right? Whereas you have some guys that are just like really happy-go-lucky. They just show up, fish. Like Cole Floyd's one of them. Cole, I love Cole to death, right? Cole is one of those guys, dude. I don't think he thinks about bass fishing. Like whenever the season ends, like it's over now, he's going home. He's looking for deer right now in a soybean field in Illinois or Iowa or wherever the hell he's at, and he don't give a dang. I don't think about bass fishing until it's time to go fishing again. And he's awesome, like one of the best guys. You know what I'm saying? He's just one of those guys that just has it, right?
I know exactly, and I would say there's a few people like that. I think that I used to believe that. I'm trying to frame up my shot because I'm so ADD, or no, I'm OCD. Well, I'm ADD
okay.
too.
There's like a squirrel in the background right here. I'm sitting in my truck. There's a squirrel in this tree, and he keeps distracting the hell out of me. So I'm
I mean, a literal squirrel. Like that's definitely a sign that one might have ADHD or whatever they're calling it. That I'm sure you need a drug for, right? Yeah. But no, it's there's guys. I think perfect examples of that are Michael Neal. Michael Neal is like, he seems so like laid back, and Jordan Lee, I've spent time in the boat with both those guys. They're like, nothing really rattles them. It's a personality. Right. It's just how some people are. It's just their personality coming into the sport, right? And then you have Edwin Evers that are like, and you've got Jeff Spragues, who are it's balls out, dude. It's
Right.
you know, and it's frenetic. It's higher anxiety, and
then you have like a Kevin Van Dam, right? That like has like that high energy level, working his ass off, and he's like one of the most naturally talented guys out there. And then you have greatness, right? Then you have Jacob Wheeler, you have Kevin Van Dam status. I think, you know.
Yeah, and I I used to think that Van Dam mentality, that search and destroy mentality, that dun 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 dun, 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 you know, was the only way to really compete. And then guys like Michael Neal show up and Jordan Lee, and I'm like, I can't quite. It's hard for me to kind of wrap my head around that, to be honest.
It's one of the cool things about our sport, right? You can do it your way and you can be successful, right? I mean, from your mentality to how you fish, as to how some guys go to 7 tournaments a year, man, that's all they fish, and they do great. They make a good living. They handle the marketing side of it well, and they do great. Okay. And then the other side of that spectrum is you got guys like John that's going to throw a Senko at the bank everywhere he goes. He's going to throw a Senko or a swim jig, and that's it. And he's going to beat your brains in.
But there is times too, like John, the last when he was on the St. Lawrence, where I'm trying to think of it. That was all these tournaments I'm telling them, they all just turned into one blob. Right. But he was on the St. Lawrence, and of course I think he made it to the final round. But the final round, I mean, he plummeted, you know, his
right.
So I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, and I've been in the boat with the best anglers in the world. I really have been. I've been doing this 21 years. I've seen the best in front of me. They're still human. You know, they're still human. So for a young angler, I don't want you, take it from an old sage here. I don't want you to get too intimidated, because here's the thing too, dude. Like, I work in this business, in the television business, and there's a ton of smoke and mirrors. Okay.
Oh yeah.
There's a ton of smoke and mirrors. It just television in general. It's just, you elevate people to the status where they're like gods, and it's nonsense. Don't believe it. Okay?
No, and I think where I was going with that, though, is that you can do it however you want, right? Is where I was going with that. Like, I mean, you can fish like that, or you can, you have like really one-dimensional guys that like, do one thing, become really good at it, or you can do like 15 million different things like me. Like, I mean, I have no problem fishing. I'm gonna fish however the hell I can go catch them, right? I mean, I don't really, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna be as versatile as I can. But then, like I said, you got guys that go to 20 events a year. You got guys that go to 7, right? I mean, there's a place for like each personality trait or style of fishing or whatever in this industry, right? I mean, you can do it different ways. Like, you don't have to do it. There's not like you got to do it just like this if you want to be successful, right? You can be a Kevin Van Dam, or you can be a Jordan Lee, or you can be a Michael Neal, or you can be a John Cox. You can kind of do it your way, right? You can fish your way. You can handle the social media, the marketing side of it. You got, so like I said, there's different ways to go about doing it. What's been my thing for the last couple of years is like figuring out who I am as an angler, right? And like what works for me. Okay. And I think that's what finally allowed me to get a little traction and like actually start like really, doing well. Was like, when I first started out, I was trying to figure out like, all right. So like, you're a decent fisherman, but like, what do you need to do to be successful? Right. Because every single angler out there has a different answer to that. Like, there's not one way, right? So you got to figure out what works for you on and off the water, who you want to be, how you want to go about doing this, and then do it to the best of your abilities, And so it's been a hell of a growing process for me in the last 3 years that I've been on the pro circuit. And it's been really cool. I mean, it's what's exciting about it, like just growing as a person, growing as an angler, seeing the industry grow. It's really cool, man. It just keeps you on your toes, and I enjoy every single aspect of it.
So tell me how you got into like bass fishing in particular. Like, what was that spark that was like, oh crap? Like, and then like bass fishing, like tournament bass fishing. When was it like you're like, I'm giving this a go, man. I'm gonna make a go for this?
I don't want to sound too cheesy or anything like that, but I don't have any other way to put it other than like I just feel like, man, like ever since I was a kid, like I was just meant to do it. Like I mean, it's, I don't know. I think we're born with different like things that just set us off, right? Like that, like I don't know, like there's guys that are phenomenal carpenters out there, right? Like they're just good at it. This is what they enjoy doing, and they're good at it, right? They're good at it because they enjoy it that much. I can't think of like a certain moment that like I was like, man, because like talking about the situation with my mom, like having those videos, she's got all kind of videos of me as a kid, like fishing and stuff. Like I'm out there in a diaper in the front yard in the ditch with a little Snoopy pole, and like I'm like pretending like I'm fishing, in the Bassmaster Classic. Like I literally like, what are you doing? I'm like, she asked me, what are you doing, Dakota? And I'm like, I'm fishing a tournament. Like I'm in the ditch in the front yard. Like with a little rubber bobber. Like so, like I don't know why I was just so infatuated with it, even as a young kid, right? Like that's just all I freaking want to do. I guess, probably watch. I remember sitting around watching Bassmasters on, on Saturday mornings on ESPN. Like, I guess now I'm thinking about it, like, I remember that. Like, I used to be so excited whenever that would come on, but then I'd miss it half the time because I'd be out shooting squirrels or something, like, then I'd come back, dang, I missed the fishing show. Like, it was we couldn't, there was no DVR then, like, I couldn't record it, right? So it was like, do I go shoot crap around the neighborhood or do I watch Bassmasters? But I do remember watching that as a kid, man, and thinking, man, that's so cool to see all that, but I guess my mom fished like some like little evening jackpot tournaments like around the house whenever I was growing up, and I remember going to one of those tournaments and thinking that was really cool. She used to fish with a guy named Mike Hood, and my uncle he fished some tournaments and stuff, and he passed away when I was probably 8 or 9 years old, so I never really got. I just wish he would have been around, because I know he was really good at fishing. I heard that he was, and I never got to like get to that point with him. That's really kind of a sad deal, but hey, life happens, But anyway, so that was kind of like, I guess my first like experience with like what kind of like opened my, that's bass fishing. There's tournaments and stuff, like watching that ESPN stuff, having a little bit of like my uncle doing that and hearing about that. And then, so when I was in high school, my mom finally let me start taking the boat out, by myself. And I think it was probably my junior year. And immediately, like, all I wanted to do was go fish the Friday night tournaments at False River in New Roads, Louisiana. Like, I just heard about that. And I just, man, I want to go fish those. And so one of my really good buddies in high school and I started fishing those evening jackpot tournaments. And, I think the first one we fished, I'll never forget this. The first one we fished, I think we got second, and then I think we got like second again the second night or the second week, and then the third week we won it. And I'll never forget that. We had like 1276 or something, and I remember like, man, this was in 2009 or 10, and I remember like every single fish we caught that night. Like I remember the green light we were fishing. Like I can take you back to it right now, and man, just one of those memories, right, that you love, and you never forget. And we started winning. Like we won all kind of tournaments that year, and then like on those little evening deals. And then the next year I got to where, man, I was fishing on Tuesdays at False River. They had a 6 to 9 tournament. On Wednesdays I go down to Blind River. If there's anybody in Louisiana fishing, they're going to know about this. If they're not from Louisiana, they're not going to know any of these places because they're really not that great at fisheries, and nobody's going to travel to them to go do it. But on Wednesday nights, I'd fish the little derby on Blind River and out of the Canal Bank, and it was like a 6 to 9 tournament. And then on Fridays, I would fish the Friday night jackpot. It was from like 7 to 12. And there was several times throughout the summer I'd fish from 7 to 12, sleep in the truck, and then there'd be a tournament on Saturday morning, right? So you'd fish till 12, get a couple of hours of sleep, already be at the boat ramp, and then fish the Saturday derby at False River, And I always got my butt kicked in those freaking day derbies out there, though. Like on Saturdays, those locals, they'd eat me up because they had brush piles and stuff. And I couldn't compete with them guys during the day for some reason at that time. But at night, I had my lights and stuff.
Right on.
I was good with them. But that summer, I don't even think I worked that much. Like I cut grass I cut grass on days that I wasn't fishing with a guy, but I won just enough. I mean, that was like the golden summer of my childhood, right? Like my senior, right after I graduated high school, and I was winning just enough in those little evening derbies to put gas was cheap then, right? I was winning just enough to put gas in my boat and pay my entry fee and like buy $1 McDonald's, chickens and stuff, man. And like, that's all I did.
It was sustaining you,
It was. I wasn't making no money, but I had just enough to pay my truck note. We didn't have any, the boat was old and it was a 17 foot with a 90 on it, whatever. And so we didn't have any bills on that. Everything was paid for. And so all I had was my truck note and putting fuel in the boat and entry fees and a little bit of food, man. And I was set.
There you go.
Good. I did it all summer, man. And at the end of the summer, that motor blew up in the boat, and I didn't have the money to fix it. And it devastated me, right? Because like I didn't have enough money to rebuild the power head. Well, my buddy's dad that I was fishing with, he ended up buying a little boat, and we fished out of it for a while. But I was so discouraged because, like, man, I was having some success right at a local level, and I was like, dude, maybe I can do this for a living, right? Like this could be really cool, like that. Okay, and then that motor blew up, and I couldn't afford to fix it, right? And it devastated me because reality hit me. It's like, dang, dude, I don't have nowhere near the resources to do this to even get started, right? I don't have the money, I don't have the boat, dang. And it broke my heart, right? And I'm an all or nothing kind of guy. Like, I'm all in or I'm not even going to be involved in it. If I can't put everything I have into it, I don't even want to touch it, right? And so I fished a couple tournaments like out of the back of the boat with some guys and stuff like that, but it just didn't do it for me, right? I mean, that's why I never fished as a co-angler. And there's nothing against fishing as a co-angler, right? I think it's a great tool for guys to learn and get better. But for me, if I'm not on that trolling motor making decisions and getting my butt kicked, I'm not learning, and it's just not me, right? And so I got to do things the hard way. Everything I've ever done in life has been the hard way, right? So if I'm going to learn, it's going to be by getting beat, or something, or making mistakes myself, not being in the back of the boat with somebody. And so I got away from it. I quit fishing tournaments until I got in college, or until I got to Tarleton State University in Texas. And that would have been, I was probably 23 at that point, around 2014, I believe is when we.
Yeah, I did a little research. Looks like you started fishing the Abu Garcia College fishing in 2015.
Yeah,
yeah.
I fished in college from 15 till 17, my last 2 years of college, and so that rekindled my my fire about it. I just we went, our first college tournament was on the Red River, and that was a pretty cool deal. So I like I said, I got away from the fishing because my heart was broke, honestly, and I was just so frustrated that I was like, man, it just crushed me, and I got away from it. And so that's when I started rodeoing a lot, and that brought me to Texas, right? So we kind of touched on that earlier, and my buddy Jake Byer is we got to be good friends through rodeo and stuff, and his parents own the sale barn there in Stephenville, and we got to be friends, and his grandpa had like a really nice pond lake out in front of his house, and it was full of freaking like 6 to 8 pound bass, and we'd go out there and fish and have fun. And we got talking, and he was just graduating from high school, and he was like, man, I don't know how it come up, but we got to talking about college fishing. I was like, man, there's a fishing team. I was like, we ought to, fish on that. And he's like, well, I'll go buy a boat. I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, no, I'm serious. He's like, my parents would be like ecstatic if I went to college, He's like, so I promise, like, we can make this happen. Like, and he was a team roper, man. And like, he was really good at it, or whatever. And, but he kind of got all fired up about fishing, and he's like, well, I'll go, buy a boat. So I found a boat at Fun and Son there in Hearst. It was like a 2011 Skeeter, like ZX 250, I think is what it was. And he went and bought that boat, and off to college fishing we went, right? And the first tournament, I don't want to get too long-winded on this, but it is kind of a funny story. So the first tournament we fished, it was an FLW college event on the Red River. and he had a college rodeo in Portales, New Mexico that same week. And so I took his truck and his boat down to the Red River and went practicing. I'd never been there. I don't know how I didn't tear up his boat.
Yeah, that's
yeah, I mean, that
pretty
place,
treacherous down there.
Yeah. So it was out of Pool 3 in Natchitoches, and I went down there and went practicing. Never had been on the Red River, even though I lived in Louisiana. And he put his horse in a trailer with some other guys and went to Portales. I practiced all week long, and they had like a family plane, so his family pilot picked him up in Portales and flew him to the Red River airport there in Natchitoches, and I picked him up the evening before the tournament, and we went out and on Saturday, and funny how this all worked out. So I don't know why I remember this so well, but I didn't know how the registration process worked for these college tournaments, and my great friends there in Stephenville didn't really fill me in too well on this. They've been fishing the college deals, so I'm picking, but they know it. They'll think that was funny. But when I showed up, we were supposed to pre-register. Well, we didn't. They still let us in the tournament, but we were dead last leaving. Okay, and there's like 180 boats in this tournament, and the fishing in Pool 4 was pretty good, and that's where I mainly had practiced at. And I practiced a little bit in 3 and I caught a couple fish on some wing dams. But when we took out of that tournament dead last, every boat that I watched leave went left towards Pool 4. And I get to running through Pool 3. I did not see a single boat. And when I got to that lock, I realized, man, every single boat in this tournament has went to Pool 4, pretty much. And I said, man, we can't go up there and compete with all those guys. It's going to be just a zoo up there of boats. So I said, well, let's just fish right here. So we ended up fishing the wing dams right there. And every time a boat would lock back through, it would create current.
Oh.
It was during the summer. Every time a boat would lock back through, it would create current on those wing dams right there close to the lock, and we'd catch the crap out of them.
It just activate them.
Yeah, and we ended up finishing 5th in that tournament. And I got made fun of so much because everybody's at this college tournament and they're all in their jerseys and stuff. I was there in a white T-shirt, like a white V-neck T-shirt, man. And still to this day, I got people that pick on me about that, man. So here we are, this big college tournament. Everybody's in their jerseys and stuff. I'm in a white tee,
Nice.
So, I mean, I was so green, man. Like, so I had never been fishing like out, other than like in South Louisiana and then, like in little ponds and stuff. So I was so green to like where I need to be in the fishing. I mean, but I was just enjoying it and having fun, right? And
yeah.
We qualified for the regional event at that tournament on Grand Lake. We went there and we were like leading day 1. Well, I'd never fished a multi-day event before. So we were leading the tournament day 1 and then bombed on the second day. We still ended up finishing 8th, I think, and qualified for our first national championship. Well, about that time, that's whenever Jordan Lee won his first classic, right? And I actually had broke my hip and couldn't walk for like 3 months. And as I was still rodeoing some of the time, and I was actually working for a rodeo company, and a bunch of panels fell over. It's not even a cool story. It's not like that.
I was going to say you got bucked off a bull or something.
No, it's not even a cool story. I just got hit by a bunch of steel, and it broke my hip, and I couldn't walk for a while. So I'm stuck in bed in a chair for 3 months, and all I did was watch fishing videos. I was watching the circuit breaker videos. It's kind of cool because Cody Meyer and I have become friends a little bit. We talk some, and it's so cool talking to him. And I never told him this, but it's kind of weird now. But like, I looked up to him so much in that circuit breaker video, that circuit breaker series that they did. I remember watching that. That was the first one I watched, and I was like, that is so cool. Like, and I'm like getting in these college tournaments. I'm having a little bit of success. I'm stuck in bed, and all I do is watch fishing videos, and I start watching those circuit breaker videos, and I'm like, dude, that is so freaking cool, man. Like, I want to live that life.
Yeah.
That set it off for me, watching all those. I watched every one of them over and over and over again.
Does Cody know that
no.
You had that? Because I've filmed a lot with Cody, and Cody's one of my favorite guys to work with. He's a fantastic guy.
He's such a nice guy, yeah.
Yeah, he's great. So basically, you had this experience through college, and you'd say that was a good experience to get you kind of ready for jumping into the pro circuit.
Yeah, because I never had experience fishing other places, right? Going to rock lakes and going to grass lakes and all that stuff. I mean, I was just having to learn that stuff on the fly, and I really think I just got flat freaking lucky most of the time, whatever. But I ended up in the right place at the right time in those college events and had a lot of success, even though I had no idea what the heck I was doing. And I'll tell you that. I guess naturally you just end up in the right place sometimes. But yeah, so like that. And then Jordan won that classic, and everybody, the big hype behind that was this college angler, comes out of college, qualifies for the elites. Now he wins the classic, and when I seen that, I was like, dang, dude, that could be me. Like, here I am in college fishing. Like, I'm fired up about it. This is what I want to do. Like, I've seen these like lifestyle videos of the life these guys live. I love traveling. I'm going all in. And I quit rodeoing because, like I said, I was doing both, but when I broke my hip, I couldn't do that it was a long time before I could really get around good enough to do that again. And so I made a decision, because like I said, I'm kind of an all-in guy, right? So I was like, all right, I love rodeo. Like, I love it. I miss it every day. I don't even like talking about it. But I knew I couldn't be great at either one if I did both. And so I quit. I put it down. And I put everything I had into fishing. When I graduated, I moved to Sam Rayburn, and learned a ton there and stuff. And here we are. But the college deal, traveling and stuff. So this is something that I hope some college guys are watching, right? I was fortunate to have some really good friends that helped me get started, right, and stuff like Jake. I just great people, right? And I've been fortunate to meet people that have carried me along through my career, all the way to where I am now. But when you're going to those college tournaments, man, like, that is such a cool opportunity in so many ways, right? For one, okay, so we were going to these events like at Grand Lake and stuff like that. You don't have that opportunity once you get out of college to go to Grand Lake and fish a tournament of that size without paying a $1,700 entry fee at least, right? Like, you can go fish some local derbies and stuff like that, but here we are, like, and they run those college events just like they run these pro circuit events, take off, all that stuff. I mean, that sounds really like simple now, right? Because we know how all this stuff works. But as a college angler, man, like, with that first event, I'm thinking, holy hell, I ain't never seen so many boats in all my life. Like, how does this work? Like, where do I get in line? Like, so like getting that experience, and then having the opportunity to go travel to a lake, get exposure, learn, maybe win a little bit of money. And, you don't have that opportunity once you get out of college without paying a big entry fee and a lot of money, right? And so I really encourage those guys to do just what I'm doing now. Like, go to as many of them college tournaments as you can afford. Go to every single one of them. I don't care if you've never been to the lake. If you can afford it, go. If you want to fish, because it's going to give you experience. There's no way you can replicate. I don't care how many days you spend on the water, fun fishing, practicing, doing what. There is no way you can replicate what you gain out of a tournament. Like, the experience, the knowledge, the decision-making skills. We can all catch bass, all of us. I can take anybody and put them in my boat. We can go catch some fish, right? The difference between guys that are really good and guys that are just good fishermen are the decisions they make between 7 o'clock and 3 o'clock. And you get that opportunity at those college tournaments without spending a whole lot of money, right? There's no entry fees. And so that traveling around all those different lakes, man, it just opened my eyes to so many different conditions and everything. And it tremendously helped me out. So
what was, when I was a young angler, and, I'm talking like, I was eat up with it. It's so funny. There's so many similar stories. I'm quite a bit older than you, but I got hooked on tournament bass fishing by watching the Bassmasters show.
Right.
With Bob Cobb. And that was like in the, late 80s, early 90s. I was addicted to that show. I was like, what is this? Competitive fishing? I'm eating up with fishing, but it can be competitive. And so I was all in, man. But I always wanted to hear from someone who is a pro, like, how they made that jump, right? So they're like, how did they make that jump into professional fishing, like actually fishing professionally? How does that happen? I think there's a ton of young anglers that want to know that now, how does that happen? to go, okay, I'm either, a high school angler or a college angler. What can I do? How do I start preparing myself to make that leap? I know this is what I want to try to do, try to make a living at. What advice would you give them?
So that's kind of like we said earlier in a conversation. Every single person's going to have a different journey, right? They're going to have a different path, right? We all live different lives. We all have different people in our lives. Like, no, there's not one set, just this is what you got to do, right? But I think the most important thing of all that has got me to where I'm at today is I'm my faith in God, okay, for one. Okay, that's me. I believe that he has helped me out tremendously and got me to where I'm at today. By introducing me to different people in my lives that have carried me through my career. It's I could go into detail on that and it would take forever, but so I'm not going to. But every time I reached a point where I was like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do now, like I would meet somebody that would help me carry me through to the next level.
They saw something in you.
Next tournament.
Right.
And so where I'm going with that is that what I can say is that no matter where you're at, no matter what you're fishing, no matter what your financial situation is, you cannot teach or replace like work ethic and just being a good person, right? I wasn't even thinking about it like when I was doing it, but one of the guys that has helped me out the most in the industry, he tells me all the time about this. We always laugh and joke about it. But this guy, he's a very well respected and liked guy in the industry, and he has really helped me out tremendously. But I met him at Rayburn, and he goes, I don't know how we got on the subject, but we got on the subject of my boat. I had a Skeeter, ZX250 at the time, and it was a year and a half old, and I had 750 hours on it. And he goes, dude, what? How many hours do you have on it? And I was like, well, they just told me the shop had 750 hours on it. And he's like, you're lying. I'm like, no, I'm dead. I mean, I didn't think, no, whatever. Like, no, I'm serious. I can't sell this dang thing. I'm stuck in it. Like I'm going to lose my butt on it. And he's like, he tells me now, like, in hindsight, he's like, that was a day. He's like, I believe in that kid, right? A guy that spends that much time on the water is working that hard at it out here just fishing. Nobody even knows who the heck he is. Nobody knew who I was at Rayburn or anything like that. Somebody that's willing to work that much at it is eventually going to inevitably find some success somewhere down the road. We're going to invest in this guy. I don't care what it is in life, whether it's fishing, being a videographer, being a carpenter, laying tile. I don't care what it is, being a professional baseball player. The people that work the hardest eventually, inevitably, become successful. And so work ethic is number one, okay? Quit. I've been at the expo for the last 2 days, and I've had a great time, met a ton of people. We helped out with the kids fishing derby. It was a huge success yesterday, but all the time kids come up to me and ask me, how do I get sponsors? And I'm just like, what? That's what you want to know? You're 8 years old, dude. Quit worrying about sponsors, man. Go bass fishing and have fun. You're 8 years old.
Yeah, that's something.
Crazy, I'm like, dude, when I was 8 years old, only thing I was worried about was like where I was going to shoot the next bird in the neighbor's yard, or like, I don't know, man. I just wasn't worried about that crap. And you shouldn't be either, man. Like, stop. Just enjoy the sport, man. Go fishing. Love it, okay? Because if you don't truly love it, you're probably not meant to like do it for a living, right? Because, man, like those days when you wake up, you're like, golly, dude, I'm so tired. I don't like the fishing sucks, and I don't like. You gotta want to go. You can't have like days where you don't want to be out there, because you will get your butt kicked by these guys. You have to be obsessed with it, okay, if that's what you really want to do for a living. But then again, like, but that's what you have to decide as a person, right? Like, you got to decide how much this means to you and how far you want to go with it. But I can encourage anyone and everyone, I don't care what walk of life they're in, if they want to do it for the living, the opportunities are out there. Look at what Brandon Palaniuk has done. Look at where he's come from. I think we had that conversation. Like, dude, come from Idaho, man. They ain't even no bass tournaments within 500 miles of there, right? Maybe there is, but there ain't no big tournaments. But he had a dream, and he worked his butt off, and he's still working his butt off every single day. I thought it was so cool, man. I was at Champlain. I got some family friends that I stay with during the summer down there, and I was at Champlain. Just kind of, I was actually really working my butt off practicing bass fishing, right? I didn't have a tournament or anything coming up in the next like month. And I don't get many opportunities to just go like practice, do like new stuff. Like, I want to flip grass with braid to fluorocarbon. Haven't got a chance to just go do that and get confidence in doing that, right? So that's what I was actually working on. But that's not where I'm going with that. Jacob Wheeler, okay, wins his group in the St. Lawrence tournament, okay? Wins his group, has an off day, drives 2.5 hours to Champlain and is practicing all day on his off day, then drives back and wins the championship round.
Yeah, no.
Dude,
yeah.
You're in the biggest tournament in bass fishing, you got a day off, and he don't take it off. He goes and works and gets ready for the next event that he ends up winning.
That's right.
Dude, that right there, that's what it takes to be successful in this sport. That's what people need to get and understand. Like, it is all about work ethic. I don't care if it's fishing in the pond because you can't afford to go. Like, you don't have a boat, go fishing in the pond if that's what if you really, really love it and you want to be good at it, you want to have a career someday, just go fishing, man. Like, just go and fishing and enjoy it. Work at it.
Do you kind of feel that, basically, if you've got the fishing down, right, that, and I've heard this before, but I want to get your take on this. Like, if you've got the fishing thing down, you're working hard, you're doing well in tournaments. Consistency is really the key in just tournaments, like just a consistent, it's not like, It's very hard to win tournaments, but being consistent really goes a long way in this sport. But, the fact that you're out on the water, you're fishing, you're being consistent, you think that's, the sponsors kind of come, or, what's your take on that?
There are some very, very good fishermen that struggle no matter what on the sponsorship side of things, okay? For whatever reason. And I'm not going to get into anything negative, but I think that you can look at some and you know why, right? You've been in the boat with all of them. Some of them are good guys and some of them aren't, okay? Most are good guys, okay? The fishing industry, for the most part, are good guys. But you as a cameraman, man, like, you're in the back of the boat, like, I know this thought's come through your mind before, like, I wouldn't freaking sponsor that guy for nothing. He's a jack,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like,
no,
then you got guys like Cody Meyer. You're like, dude, if I had a company, I'd want it on his shirt.
Why? Oh, Cody's fantastic.
Why is Cody fantastic? He's a fantastic person. He's just a nice freaking guy.
That's exactly right. It's not rocket. It's, honest to God, it's not rocket science.
No, dude, just be a nice person.
It's like if you're likable, and you could promote a product. Cody's fantastic. He talks well. He gives great sound bites. He promotes the product. I'm telling you, man. Like, some of these guys, I'm like, I don't know what these sponsors are getting from these guys. Well, because they're not like, it just seems a little bit one-sided. And listen, I'm a person that, knows that, you get all these sponsors. Well, that's also a lot of commitments. It's a lot more work for you because you got to make them.
It is.
But like, Lord, if you got sponsors, you got to make them happy. I understand that relationship, and
absolutely, man. But like, I just think he's a great example of just somebody who's a great guy. And so it's easy to like him. It's easy to want to follow him. It's easy for him to promote those products because he's just a nice guy. Right. And so that's just something that I think, like, having, and look, granted, some people just aren't good at speaking in public. Right. And I understand that. That's okay. Like, that's okay. Like, you can still be a good fishermen, you can still promote your sponsors well, even though you just get nervous in public. You don't like speaking and stuff, there's guys that just are naturally good at it. And there's guys that are naturally not, but you can still find a way to promote those people. But I just think the most important thing, like I said, is work ethic and just being a freaking good person, and just, just doing your thing, man. Don't be a pro staffer guy. Don't worry about all that stuff, man. I just see people putting the horse out. That probably offended somebody, but I felt that way. I mean, I look at some stuff in that I've done that a little bit where I've asked for, hey, maybe I could get a reel, maybe, Yeah.
I'm like, what am I doing?
Man,
I'm like, ew, I've bitched about this stuff, and here I am, the guy that's sort of doing that. The pro staffer thing, I've talked about it a ton, dude, on here. I
don't put the horse in front of the carriage, okay? And I say I'm not the best at it, and I know that I sell myself short. I'll be honest with you, I'm pretty hard on myself, when it comes to that stuff. And I think you kind of got on to me while we were in the boat, about it. And I took it well, but you were cause I said something man, I feel awkward, posting stuff because I'm ain't nobody give a crap what I got to say.
Wrong.
Right?
Wrong.
Yeah, I know, but it's just kind of I don't know, man. I've always just been I don't want to ever come across as a guy that thinks he's I don't ever want to, it's like nails on chalkboard. Somebody would say, man, that guy's cocky or something. I don't ever want to be like that, man, because I'm so thankful for where I'm at, all that. So I don't ever want to I don't want to ever think, I'm really conscious about not.
Here's the deal, dude. Confidence is what you want, right? You don't want to be cocky, but confidence is great, and you can be confident and also be very humble, and and that's actually a very likable personality, I would say. Those people that are confident but also humble, also friendly. Those are, when you think about it, really very magnetic kind of personalities. People
magnetic attract sponsors.
Well, right, but it's also people that they also want to know about you. They're not just tied into they also care about what's going on in your life.
Well, there was a guy. So after Friday, I had a good day on Friday, and I caught him pretty decent. I finally got to pool 7 where I wanted to fish at the first day, and I caught enough that I think if I'd have got there the first day, it was kind of a kick in the shin, right? Because I was like, man, I messed up. I missed that lock, and it cost me making the knockout round, whatever. And I just felt pretty strong about that. But you learn, you live and you learn. But anyways, where I was going with that is, man, it's been a heck of a year, and a long year. I want to just go. I went and had a beer by myself at this little restaurant on the water, right? So I'm just sitting out on this back deck by myself, not a care in the world,
you're decompressing, right? Yeah,
right. And this guy walks up to me. He was having dinner with his family, and he walks over there, and it's he's like, you fished this week? And I told him, yeah. And he's asked me how I did, blah this, blah that. And we got to talking. He's a super nice guy. And he told me, he's like, man, he's like, I knew you were fishing. I could just tell, he's like, whenever you come in here. But he said, we were having a good conversation. He's like, man, he's like, blah this, blah that. And he's like, I could just tell you weren't I don't mean this the wrong way, but he said, I can tell you weren't a Kevin Van Dam or something like that, because I figured you wouldn't be in here in a bar like this, or it's not really a bar, it's a little restaurant deal. He's like, I could see you just being, if you were a really high profile guy, you probably wouldn't be in a place like this, sitting by yourself, having a beer, having this conversation like this with me. And I was like, man, that ain't really true, right?
Yeah,
I said, I tell you what, and I ended up, he gave me his number, I gave him mine, and he, told me, look, if you ever need a place to stay, all this, super nice guy. And I was like, I want to challenge you to this, right? I said, no matter how good I get in my career, if you ever see me anywhere and think that I've changed, if I ever change, right? If you ever see me thinking too highly of myself to come sit in this place and have a beer and a conversation with you, slap the crap out of me, right? Wake me up. I don't ever want to be that guy, right?
Well,
I mean, I was like, man, that's not really true, because like I enjoy that. I enjoy meeting people and talking about fishing and all those things, and I don't want that to ever change. I don't think it ever will, man.
Well, thankfully in this sport, I mean, I've found that most people are very humble, and if they're not humble and they're just immersed in their ego and they think that all the cameras on it. Here's the reality, dude. My job is to film the event, right? My job. I know some people that might think that he's filming me, you know, and I'm the star, and I'm like, well, no. I'm here to film the action. I'm here to film this event. I'm here to film this sporting event. I'm not here to inflate anybody's ego, you know. Right. But there are people that are, thankfully, in bass fishing, it's very rare, and I'm not just saying that, but it really is. Most people are very down to earth. But the reality is, everybody that makes this bass fishing product that goes on television, we all have a job. It's our job to make the best product that promotes the bass fishing and also Major League Fishing, right? The sport of bass fishing. It's not about blowing up anybody's ego, and yet that I guess does happen. It happens more frequently probably in other sports, but just the fact that someone allows themselves to get such a big head over that doesn't understand the behind the scenes stuff, where we are we're not trying to blow your ego up, dude. We're actually we're promoting this. We're trying to make this this product look is polished and awesome as possible to get more people that want to watch it, right? Want to bring more people into the sport. But so
it brings more people in that sport, anglers that are people like you know what I'm saying? Like anglers that like that people can relate to, you know? So like that's why I think it's just so important to like just be a good person, like be a likable person, like you said, you know.
Agreed, dude. So I appreciate you doing this big time, man. I know you want to get out on the road, and you've taken your time to do this before you head back. I guess you're going back to Texas.
I'm going back to Texas now. This is it for me for the year for the most part. We've got the Texas Shootout down there that I'm going to fish in a couple weeks, and then I've got the Toyota Series Championship on Pickwick at the end of October. But this is pretty much it for me for the year on the road. I'm going to get back down there, and I'm actually hopefully buying a place down there, which so that's going to be a whole nother deal.
Good for you.
It's taken me a while, but I think that we could probably make it happen now. It's been a struggle being self-employed and all that stuff. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But I think finally I'm going to get me a little place. I can't spend another off season with my stuff and a pile of junk in my buddy's garage. I mean, I know they don't mind, and I appreciate it like no other, but man, I'm competing against these guys that have all these nice shops and all this stuff, and all their stuff's organized and everything's and they can work on their boats and everything. And I'm like sleeping on a couch, and you know, my everything out of my boats in this big mound of crap in a shop, and I'm like, it's just a mess. So I'm not doing that anymore. Okay. Right on. I'm going to get me a shop. I'm buying a little piece of land that's got a shop on it and a little bedroom and a bathroom, and that's it. That's simple.
Perfect,
it's all
dude.
I need.
Yeah.
It's all I need.
Us dudes, dude. We honestly, I think about, like, sometimes I pass these little cabins, you know, these little homes on the water. Sometimes, like on the Black River in La Crosse there's all these like floating little houses, you know. And I'm thinking, man, it does not take much. I could easily live. No. And now my wife would have a different, probably have some problem with that, so that probably wouldn't work. Yeah. But as a single dude, like, you know, single dudes, we really don't need much, man.
Dude, I don't, man. I'm a really simple guy, man. I think, and it doesn't take a whole lot to make me happy and content, you know. Right. But I do. I am at the point now, though, where it's like, all right, man, I got to get something, like to have some sort of foundation and something to go back to be able to just regroup, right? I need to take all my stuff out, organize it, work on my boat. You know, I'm fixing it. My new boat is at Scott Jordan Marine there in Vidor, and I'm ready to get it rigged up and everything. And I want a place of my own to do that, and you know, just
understood, man.
On my stuff, man. I mean, because the job never stops, right? So I'm gonna do some hunting and stuff, but I mean, man, it's gonna take it's going to take all the next 3-4 months to get ready for 2022, from, negotiating with sponsors and stuff, and re-signing deals and getting the boat rigged and tackle rigged. And I mean, my truck, we're in my truck right now because this is the most comfortable place for me to sit, but this back here has got to go. Like, it is, I am pretty OCD about stuff, and my camper looks like a bomb went off in it. My truck looks like a bomb went off in it. It looks like a college or a high school girl, with all her life belongings back here in the back. That's what it's bad. My boat's a wreck. But I was at the St. Lawrence and then, qualified for here. So it's just like those last 2 events of the year, I've just kind of let everything go. And instead of being organized, I'm like, all right, I don't need all this. I'm gonna unload it all when I get to Texas. I'm just throwing it in here and try not to look at it. And so I'm pretty excited to get home and get this truck cleaned up and get this camper unloaded and do all that stuff. But it has been a pleasure talking with you, man. I hope that maybe I provided a little bit of insight as to, what has helped me get to where I'm at for somebody that's watching. The sponsorship side of things, man, I do have a little bit of different opinion on that, than I feel like a lot of people do. I'm not. Josh Douglas made the comment the other day. He's like, dude, you're the most under-sponsored angler, in the sport. And I'm like, ouch, kind of. No, yeah, you're probably right. But my thing is, man, when it comes to sponsors, it's not about quantity, right? It's about quality. Okay. I have some really good relationships with the people that are on my jerseys, right? Like my Hammer Rods company, right? They're a local company out of Iuka, Mississippi. They're, my buddy Ty, his mom and his dad run that company. They're great people. They're great to work with. I'm proud to represent them. And I hope that I do that in the best of my abilities, and I do a good job at it. Those kind of relationships are more important to me than having another name on my jersey that maybe I can or cannot benefit. I don't want anybody on my jersey that I don't feel like I can promote their product and make it worth their time. I don't feel right about that. If I don't use their product, like I don't have a bait sponsor. I don't, because I use all kind of different stuff, and I don't feel right like being sponsored by this company knowing that I'm gonna have this bait on my deck. Like, I'm just not gonna do it. I'm not. I mean, whatever. So I know that that's kind of out there, whatever, but I'd rather have a tackle warehouse deal or something than have a specific bait deal. Like, well, if I don't,
I hear you.
And so I'm kind of weird now.
Here's the thing, dude. I've worked a ton with Kevin Van Dam. I've worked a ton with Kevin. I right out of college, I was working at Bass Pro Shops video production department. So I worked with Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
And Kevin. People were really surprised that Kevin, he uses everything, only the things that baits that he's sponsored by. Seriously, people there's really highfalutin jerk baits out there and really highfalutin crankbaits and high dollar. And I know people have been surprised. They're like, well, he can't be using everything, Strike King. No. Kevin uses everything. With that being said, there was a few exceptions to that. He won the classic with a Smithwick Rogue, I believe. Right. But very few exceptions.
Sometimes you gotta,
no, for sure.
No, but the good thing about it, the kind of encouraging thing is, it's good and bad, maybe whatever. That's a whole other story. But there are you got Berkley now that has almost everything, right?
Dude, it's nuts.
You could pretty well use a Berkley bait in any situation and be able to stick with that one brand. Strike King's the same way, man. They got everything. Spro this year blew up, right? They got all kind of new stuff that just come out, right? So there's companies that are and I know that one day I'm sure I will have a bait sponsor, and I at that point we'll cross that bridge, and I'm sure at some point I'll have to use a different bait or whatever. But it's just a deal to me. Like I said, when it comes down to it, quality is way more important than quantity, right? Don't sell yourself short. Don't put a bunch of stickers on your jersey just to make it look like you're somebody. That doesn't work. All you're doing is decreasing your value as an angler. The more stuff you put on your jersey, if you can't represent them to the highest level, then all you're doing is decreasing your value as an angler. You're diluting yourself as an angler. And so
no, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I wanted to. So I want to get you on the road. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
No,
but you're. I'm loving our conversation here because I just like keeping it candid, man. Like I want, I think of myself as a young angler. What did I want to hear from someone who was a young pro out there grinding and doing it? I wanted to get behind the curtain, really understand, how to do it. I know there's people listening right now that are feeling that way, So I just want to pick your brain just a second and then get into. We were talking about in lacrosse. I was giving you some advice. So I want to wrap up with me giving you advice, awesome. And you take it for what it's worth. But tell me about, like you had touched upon it earlier. You had learned something in the pro circuit, like there was something that you're like you're finally kind of like getting. You've made. I'm looking here. Like I said, I took some notes on. You've made. How long have you been fishing the pro circuit? And you've made all 3 championships. Yeah. So what is it that you've in those 3 years you're like starting to put together?
Man, it's just like I said, figuring out me as an angler, right? What works for me? You can go do it all, but every angler is different. Like every angler processes information different. They fish differently. Like you can't say I want to fish like so and so, right? Because I used to look at Thrift and really study what Thrift did and how he fished, right? And I do feel like I picked up on some things that he does that's helped me be successful, right? Because, if you're a Major League Baseball player, you are aspiring to be a Major League Baseball player, you study baseball players. You study, what they did, how they're successful, their mechanics and all that stuff, and then you try to apply them yourself, but you're going to have a little bit different form than that person. You're not going to be able to pitch exactly the way that got pitched, right? And so fishing is the same way, right? Study how these guys are being successful, and then say, how can I apply that to me and what I do, whether it's their mental process or the way that they fish physically. But for me, the biggest thing that I think has allowed me to gradually become better and better, I feel like I'm on this thing right here. Like you got guys that go, phew, I'm on this right here. And that's fine. I don't mind being a grounder. I don't mind being, the hard work guy that just, as long as we keep doing this, I'm good, right? I want to continue to get better every single day. So that's something that I've challenged myself to do since I started this endeavor 5 years ago. It was 5 years ago that I fished my first Toyota Series. And getting better every day, right? Just figuring out some way to get a little bit better every day that you're on the water, and even when you're not on the water. And then figuring out who you are as an angler, what works for you, right? That's been the biggest thing for me. Now, as to what maybe like an aha moment or something like that, man, there really hasn't been that for me. Like it hasn't been like a one thing that's like, oh man, and then just start blasting them, right? Because it's just been like that gradual increase, where I've consistently got a little bit better every year. And I think that just comes with time on the water, and it comes with me going to so many events and being in so many different circumstances, right? So like this year, and I did it last year too, but I'll be literally 1 week I'm in South Florida at Toho, and then the next week I'm at Chickamauga, and it was 90 degrees down there. They're spawning post-spawn, and then the next week it's snowing and I'm at Chickamauga, and I think I top 20 both of them. So that's something I was really proud of, right? But that right there, what went on in those 2 week periods is what has allowed me to get better, right? Because I've put myself in so many different circumstances so quickly that I've learned to adjust, right? Adjust on the fly, adjust on the water, not get too dialed in on anything, right? Just go fishing, right? Because when you go from one style of fishery to the next, 1 week to the next like that, you've got to be just fishing, right? You just got to be in the mode and just fishing. And this is an easy analogy. So like I was talking to some guys about fishing here on the river. The reason why this area produces some really good anglers is because this river changes every single day, right? So these guys that fish this river a lot, they know how to adapt, right? They know that they can't necessarily go do the same thing 2 days in a row and be successful. They're good at making decisions on the fly, making those adjustments. And so whenever you're fishing out that many events and you're going from place to place, man, you're having to just like roll with it, man. Like you're having to just go fishing and keep it pretty simple, right? Can't make it too complicated whenever you're having to go to that many, tournaments and stuff. So keeping it simple, a bass is a bass, right? I don't care if he's in South Florida, if he's in New York, or he's in California. He's the same dang fish, okay? He just relates to his environment a little bit different. A bass sets up on a stump just like he sets up on a rock pile. And, he sets up on a stump in the Atchafalaya Basin in South Louisiana the same way that he sets up on a rock pile on St. Clair or Mille Lacs, right? He's doing the same thing. He's just relating to his environment differently. So keeping it really simple for me is allowed me to be successful, man. I think, and just going fishing, being on the water, and the more you're on the water, the better you get. I mean, you get more apt to making those decisions and stuff. But
yeah, no doubt.
Yep, for sure.
All right, well, I'll drop some incredible advice right here. I hope you've prepared yourself. But it's basically this. So as a young angler, okay, you're probably you've been immersed in kind of the internet and what's going on with YouTube and Facebook and everything with people posting on particularly YouTube, but just social media, Instagram, yada yada yada, right? Well, me growing up as a young angler, we didn't really have the ability to self-broadcast, if you will, and potentially grow an audience. And potentially grow like an enormous audience. And so what I would say, and this is also kind of, it just can potentially be a supplemental income. And you see all the guys, doing it. Wheeler's got a YouTube channel. Most all these guys have YouTube channels. But what I've learned in this really incredibly frustrating journey is that I've overthought it. I come from the professional television realm, right? Where I'm trying to make all these, have all these camera angles and I'm cutting between camera angles and I still like doing that. But what I think is more important than anything, right, in this internet realm, it's different than television. Like the internet, particularly YouTube, but I think just in general, anything that's video on the internet, it's more about connecting with the audience, and it's almost like the more raw it is, the better. And I've talked with Jacob Wheeler's cameraman, and he said the same thing. He edits the stuff as well, and he's like, I put up some of the stuff that's like I didn't spend any time on. It's low production quality, and they do better. And so I've had like just even more recent, like an aha moment where don't worry so much about making things perfect or perfect production quality. That's not what's important. What's important is that you're bringing people along for the ride of your life, so to speak, the ups and downs.
Right. And
you as a tournament angler, you've got a lot of those dramatic elements to tell a story. It's almost like what I would recommend that you do it's people call it vlogs or whatever. It's a video diary, and just upload, like it can be done with your phone, and just upload your video diary of what it's like being you, trying to rise in the ranks of professional bass fishing, the trials and tribulations, the bumps along the road. And you being a humble guy, I get it. I'm very similar. I don't like to toot my own horn. I don't like it's kind of weird even now to be talking. I'm all alone here and I'm talking to a camera,
Right.
But
it's always been kind of an awkward thing.
But you gotta. There's people that even if you start out with a small audience, there's people that are following you that are digging what you're doing. You might look at the numbers, go, God, what am I doing this for? But there's people that are digging what you're doing. It's not a matter of, it's more of a matter that they just haven't found you yet. Okay, when you grow, so. You just what I would recommend you do, because there are people making very good money on these video production on these video platforms. I mean, now it seems like Facebook video, they're really trying to compete with YouTube, and people are making money on
those
Facebook.
Guys are monetizing Facebook as well.
Yes.
That's a really vague question. Like, I should know that.
No, yes. So now Facebook is really trying to get in the ring against YouTube, right? So they basically kind of hate each other. And so they're competing with each other. And so I've never had a big video on YouTube. But on Facebook, I've had videos where like they've done way, way better. And so there's also Rumble. I would look really highly into Rumble now, because Rumble is like an alternative to YouTube. There's a lot of censorship crap going on YouTube. So people are turning to Rumble, right? And so that's like what YouTube was a few years ago, and then it blew up, and then that's what created the Guggen Squad. All those guys that were early adopters of the platform, and I've said this many times before, it wasn't like they were making groundbreaking videos, okay? It's
right
because...
place, right time.
Exactly. So I would recommend just start a Rumble account, but you have to be consistent and just don't worry about the quality. Tell your story. People will want all the people that want to be a professional bass fisher, all these young kids. There's more young kids that want to do it now, I believe, than ever before. They will speak to them. Just speak to those guys. Imagine if you're talking, just when you're speaking to your phone or your GoPro camera, imagine that you're talking to those young anglers that wish they could be in your shoes, and take them along for the ride. And that's the advice I'd get. And I believe if you plant that seed and if you're consistent, you will be rewarded. And, because life can be volatile, it's another source of income. It's just kind of a safety net.
That's an interesting way to put it, man. And I do definitely appreciate the advice, and I'm going to take it. I really am. Here we are. We're in the off season, so I don't have the fishing excuse right now. Like, I'm still going to go fishing almost every day, but I don't have an event that I have to be wrapped up in, and I don't have that excuse. So if I don't do it in the next 3 months, it's my fault, and my laziness. So I'm not one to like to be lazy. So I'm gonna work at it, man. And so I know we're getting long-winded here, but I do want to ask you. I was going to ask you this probably after the fact, but I'll go ahead and ask you now on the podcast, so maybe it'll help someone else too. So when you're making these posts, right, do you recommend, I always felt like I'm taking views away when I post it on Facebook and YouTube, right? Obviously, like there's always been, I'm going to use that, Facebook and Instagram, right? So like when you make the same post on Facebook and Instagram, if I just post on Instagram, it's going to get way more attention than like on Instagram than if I post it on both, right? So do you recommend I start like this video blog series, with this the journal type deal? Do you post it on all three? Do you post on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, or do you just post it on one? Or how do you manage that?
So here's the thing. That can be an incredible a time suck, because I've found myself in this situation. It's like, oh, now Rumble. I've got to post on Facebook. Now I got to post on Rumble. Now I got to post on. I was doing IGTV, which looks like that's not really a thing. But I mean, you can kind of burn yourself out by trying to post on all these platforms. So that has to, you got to be careful with that. I will say this. So I'm going to give you an anecdotal story here. So 3 weeks ago, a month ago, something like that, I had on a guy that has a YouTube channel. His name's Kayak Catfish. That's his handle. His name's Justin Johnston. But he's known as Kayak Catfish. He catches big blues and flatheads on the Tennessee River out of his kayak. We started this YouTube venture, game about the same time, and he was posting on Instagram and YouTube. And he was just kind of languishing like I've been languishing. And all of a sudden in the last, I'd say 2 years, his YouTube channel has blown up. Now he's over 100,000 subscribers. I look at his subscriber count every once in a while, and he's growing. He quit his job, and now he's full time doing it. Right. So he focuses on his primary focus is YouTube and then Instagram. And he just does little clips on Instagram. His main videos are on YouTube. So what I would say to you is I would probably, I really think you should probably be on Rumble, okay? So you might, and it's so new that I don't want you going down a road, and just, I would say you probably should go down 2 roads here. I would probably go on YouTube still, but I would also focus on Rumble, and then Instagram is just your, if you want to just do a post with a fish pic or something, or to promote, hey, I just dropped a video on YouTube, But what I don't want to miss the boat on is I think Rumble could be the start of something here. There's enough people over there now, and it seems like there's a bit of a mass exodus happening over there. I don't think YouTube's going anywhere, but I think that you could get a foothold into Rumble, and it could pay off. But I don't think it's smart to put all your eggs in one basket. And
Right.
and we can be in contact, and I'm going to see kind of what's going on Facebook too, and I'd be happy to kind of help you there with maybe where I think it's kind of going. Yeah. But yeah, I don't. The reality is there's people that just there's people that like to go on Facebook, and that's where they get their content. There's people that like to go on YouTube. So, but there is a big enough audience, I think, everywhere now where you can make substantial money. Maybe not at first with you work at it, but you can make good money on all of those platforms now.
Right.
And even you can monetize on Rumble now. So I would say for you, I would say concentrate on YouTube and Rumble for your videos, and then just have an Instagram account where you promote those videos, and you could show fish pictures and just easy stuff just to, tell people what's up. But honestly, that doesn't even, don't get too worried about the Instagram thing. It's almost like Justin Johnston, Catfish. I mean, it's his YouTube channel. He's got a good Instagram following, but the YouTube channel is the bread and butter, man. And there's plenty of people that just have a YouTube channel and they're doing just fine. So I would say just try to keep it simple. If anything, for me, I've made things way too complicated.
Right.
So that's my my advice. Take it for what it is.
No, it's great, man. Thanks. I appreciate you having me. Appreciate the insight, the advice, and all of it. And looking forward to hopefully seeing you next year. And maybe I guess you'll be at Sam Rayburn maybe at the at the tour event.
Yeah,
in January.
Yep. So
hopefully that's hopefully I can break the hometown curse in the tour there and have a good event. Maybe we'll have you in the back of the boat, man.
Sounds good, brother. Hey, enjoy your time off. I know there's really not time off, but you should be able to go deer hunting and relax a little bit.
Yeah.
And enjoy it. And I really appreciate you taking the time, dude, to talk with me. I've really enjoyed our conversation. And yes, next year I look forward to being in a boat with you, my friend.
Awesome, man. Sounds good. We'll talk to you later. Have a good one, man.